Yep, it is that time to get dangerous because we're here. And I think we got a couple of announcements to make before we really get entangled in our normal mischief for this week here.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
No mischief?
No, we're going to do some mischief.
No, you said no business. I'm sick. And you said no mistress. No, mistress. Oh, God. Okay.
Mischief, not mistress.
Mistress of lycanthropes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
She's not doing good.
Yes, I'm gonna sit in the corner and moderate and just drive everybody crazy in the chat. I'm on camera, but I'm not here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I don't know. But our announcements is pretty much this is going to be this episode right here is our last episode for this year for 2024. We're going to take a small hiatus from now until January 9th. So January 9th, we're coming right back and we're going to do the best of 2024. And in the works, we're going to plan a reunion special too, where everybody comes back. So it would be all of us together in one big package. So that's in the works as of right now. So just for you guys to be mindful, we have to make certain that everybody is aware of that up front, that we will be away for maybe 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks between now and January 9th. So mark your calendars. January 9th, we'll be back full strength, all rested,
recuperated well.
Yeah. Hopefully all hangovers and all the other normal stuff from like New Year's would be done and over with.
I give you no. I am not guaranteeing. I'm just saying.
Well, we know that you party too much, so it is.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, what can I do? These elves, they show up at my door and they've got wassail and and waffles, and you got waffle wassailing. You can't just say no to that. It's like
I just know how you are. You go all Possum Pearl, be like, ooh, hello.
And I just, I lose track of it. And by the time I realize, oh, I've lost track of it, it's it's a few weeks later.
Yeah, that's being nice.
And the kids are like, "Are you going to sober up? We need groceries." So,
all the Christmas cookies gone already? Oh my god! Oh wait, no, there's some fruit. There's some fruit cake over there. What do you mean you won't eat that?
All of the Oberweis eggnog is gone. We have none left. I am brokenhearted. Have you ever had Oberweis eggnog?
Yeah, you still have to spike it a bit.
Yes, but it's some of the best that's out there. The Southern Comfort isn't good. I mean, it's okay. I am not English today. I
No,
am
you're
not
not English. You're Elaine.
It's a good thing we're not in the same room, Joe.
You could be Elaine, mashed up Elaine.
I said I was going to keep my damn mouth shut and just work the chat room. Okay, let me go back to the chat.
No, but it's just like for some reason, it's like eggnog is not eggnog without the right type of rum up in it. That's just pretty much it. You don't have to make it overly alcoholic, but you have to have a little bit of rum.
No, I do. Courtney, what do I do instead of rum in my eggnog? Baileys. I do Baileys.
Yeah.
I like Baileys in my eggnog. Not
I
rum.
have tasted eggnog. It's too sweet for me to have very much of it, but it's okay. It's not my favorite.
Oh, that's right. You can't
go-to
have
thing.
it. Oh.
But one year, there was a little coffee shop, a little locally owned coffee shop that opened up, and I've not been able to find the kind of coffees that they carried. They were in a gold, kind of a sparkly, kind of metallic gold bag. I have looked and looked and looked. I assume that they must have gone out of business. The company that they got these coffees from. They had like the best cinnamon coffee. If you like cinnamon, like if you want to have a swig of coffee and then go, ooh, I can feel the cinnamon on my tongue. That was the most stringent cinnamon coffee I've ever had. They made one year. They made eggnog coffee, and it definitely blended coffee, a very strong coffee, with eggnog. It didn't have any sugar, so I could have that. And I drank a bag of it, but it took me about 3 months because it was really, really eggnog with coffee. Kind of a weird combo. But.
So you had a swig of that, and then next thing you know, it's like, what day is it? And then
no, it was. At least I got to feel like I had really tasted eggnog a lot because it really gave you that flavor without any sugar. But the fact that it's mixed with a strong, a medium blend coffee was just kind of like, oh, there's having tasted the other, I'm like, I like coffee, I like eggnog. I'm not sure I like it together. It's just kind of it's not like Reese's peanut butter cups. It's just not two great tastes that are wonderful together. But it was good to have it. I felt like I kind of got caught up of never having had it before. It was novel. It was different. So,
well, I don't know if I've had. Yes, I think Starbucks makes a coffee. They do an eggnog. They do an eggnog coffee that's not bad. It used to. It's one of those things you can get at the store, and it's their cappuccino. It's their frappuccino line that you can get at the store, and they used to do the eggnog. But I have last couple of years I haven't seen it either. I'm not out there catching it when it's available. Though this year they have a peppermint mocha that's decent.
Dunkin' Donuts ground coffee, which I can have because it doesn't. When you get it as ground coffee, it has no sugar in it. So they came out with a peppermint, which is pretty good. Now you can't taste the peppermint in it a whole lot, but there's a little undertone of peppermint to it. The other one that they came out with, as far as I know, the first time I've ever done this is a cinnamon and honey coffee.
Ooh.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it was. I didn't expect much out of it, but it's pretty tasty. I may have to pick up another bag because it's limited time only. So I may have to get one of those.
World Market, if you have one near you, or places like Burlington and Marshall's, they have the sugar-free syrups that you can add to your coffee.
Yeah, but they have those with sweeteners, and some of the sweeteners I can't have. They mess up my retinopathy.
You can't have Clyde go full dictator.
No. It doesn't mess up my sugar as much as it just plays with my circulation and stuff. Some of the later, it tastes wonderful. They're wonderful sweeteners, but they're not the best thing for my physiology anymore.
Well,
so
okay, that that canceled my Yuletide gift for you. It's like, ooh, there's a sugar-free salted caramel thingy for his coffee.
Now, I've got my sipper glass here with the snow globe in it.
Oh, okay.
Wearing my Grinch shirt.
Yep.
That's about as close as you can get to Christmas monsters, like that.
What, you don't have a Krampus shirt?
I should invest in one. I was kind of waiting to see if it would stick, if it was going to keep being a thing. I think we have decided now that it is. So,
if I wish I had known you guys were into that sort of thing, I should have told you. And they're gone now. Family Dollar had these great T-shirts that they were selling, red ones. The first Home Alone, the Angel with Dirty Faces.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't stop to get that because I think you said something about it. I just never got a chance to stop in and get one.
Yeah,
it's like Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. I think either Costco or Sam's Club has them as well. You have to check. But unfortunately, I only got one. I was supposed to get 3, but I could only afford to get 1. And then we went back to get the other 2. They were sold out. I think when I was at the store, I got too vocally happy. Someone overheard me.
You drew attention, didn't you?
I did. It's like, yeah, leave it to me, open her mouth, and then boom, you can't get what you want. Because other people like, oh, she wanted that. It must be good.
Since we're talking about Christmas, though, we have a couple of, we didn't get a whole lot of Hallmark this year. There were only a few that really struck me as being necessary for our Tree of Geekery. Also, our Tree of Geekery is getting really, really crowded. So, didn't have to have a whole bunch, but there's a couple of talking ornaments from Hallmark this year that were really, really good.
Oh, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, there's something you don't see every day.
Yes. Oh. Okay, you are leaving that to me in your will. And Joe, I will cripple you if you try to get it instead.
Now,
no, that's all you.
One of the coolest parts of this, you can kind of see into that upper story there, that part where the temple is. When it's lit up, you can actually see the Ghostbusters aiming there. It's kind of a hologram. You can see them aiming their
wowzers. Okay.
Proton gliders and their generators, their backpacks.
Cool. Yeah.
And if you switch it to the front, you can see the streams. So it's got like one on every side. It's got an image that comes through. So that was one of the things we got. The other one was we got several Doctor Who and we got the TARDIS last year. Mm-hmm. So this year, to balance things out,
the Dalek.
Exterminate.
And he also says, and then uses the zap sound. And then, because he's a more modern Dalek, they have anti-grav units. So they elevate. Because used to everybody said, wow, all we need is a set of stairs and we'll get away from them. But now that you can't, they fly. So
oh man, that geez, that takes all the fun out of Daleks when they can levitate. Levitate.
Elevate. They got a thing for the E words. I'm not really sure why, but
that's true. I think it's
one.
This is lemon ginger tea, by the way. This is not alcoholic. This is medicinal. And yes, it's a Cubs. Let's see if I can find. Oh, it's on the wrong side. Hold on.
Cheers.
Yeah.
This is also medicinal. So
okay. Donna says my voice is perfect for the Dalek.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
it's a friend of mine used to work for what was Evanston Northwestern Hospital, and one of the Cubs games earlier this year had an honoring people who worked for this particular medical system, and their hospital came under it. And the person she was supposed to go to the game with at the last minute said she couldn't make it, and she asked if I'd join her. And we got Stanley Cups out of it. It's like, oh my goodness, these are Stanley Cups. She didn't know what they were. And it's like, sweetie, there are women paying $80 to get
People paying the price at Target. I mean,
yeah.
it's like throwing fists and throwing elbows for a stupid tumbler.
You know, they will and will shame you if it's not an act, if you have something that looks like a Stanley Cup but isn't actually.
A Stanley compatible is not going to cut it, is it?
It's got to be an actual Stanley Cup. But this thing holds 40 ounces. So I make 40 ounces of lemon ginger tea and suck that through for the night.
Easy.
Yeah, take your time here, because only thing I'm thinking about now is the ornament, and just was hoping that it would say before they actually did that a couple of lines before that, because they don't say choose the form of your destroyer.
Oh,
I wanted the line before that. It's like, Ray, the next time somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes. I don't know. I kind of thought it was the right tone for it to start with the whole, it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
No, I
like,
love that.
It's like, did you think of it? It's like, did you think of anything? No. Did you think of anything? No.
Mine's completely blank.
Ray, what did you do, Ray?
Yeah, it was the one thing I thought would never hurt me. It's the Stay Puft. And I love the way he says it. You know, it's like, it's right up there with my mom caught me reading my dad's Playboy under my sheets last night.
I mean, the way that he said it, and then at the very end, oh no, it's the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Okay, Ray's gone bye-bye. Egon, you got anything?
Well, so like
I don't know. One, to me, just had a lot of better classic lines than two.
Yeah, it did.
That movie had, if you think about it, in fact, I was just watching this guy I watched, Centel Reacts. He and a friend were just watching, he had never seen the Blues Brothers. Oh. Which, of course, we all know is it's before, it predates Ghostbusters. And he had never seen it. And his friend had seen it, but hadn't seen it in a while. So it was interesting watch someone, because I've noticed everybody's whose movie knowledge, it doesn't go any further back than, say, 1995, has no idea of the quality. You know, get somebody to watch Kurt Russell in The Thing. Oh, yeah. And they will just like, they were making this back then. It's like, yeah, we didn't suddenly figure out how to make movies in the 90s.
Wait a minute, is that Santa Claus? No, that's Snake Plissken. Who?
Okay. Because I was thinking, Escape from New York was what, 80 something, right?
Yeah,
86, 87.
And he didn't do Escape. He got Escape from New York because of The Thing.
Right.
The Thing sort of, because at the time in which he got The Thing, people were still in that, Kurt Russell, he's what? He's Mr. Goldie Hawn, and he was the next Kurt Russell's, everybody thought his best days were behind him because he was a Disney actor.
Mhm.
He was a male Disney actor, and what usually tends to happen to male Disney actors is, just like the females, you kind of get to, somewhere in your late teens, early 20s, and they're pretty much done with you. And
That or you get typecast.
yeah,
Heavily typecast.
you get heavily typecast. And so when he got the thing, everybody's like, okay, he just killed this movie. And then, of course, they did the movie. It was like, holy crap, Kurt Russell can act, And then, of course, they went on to do, what was it? Big Trouble in Little China, and then Escape from New York. And it was like, oh, wow, Kurt Russell's got chops. It's like, yeah, just don't put him in.
Escape from New York put him on the map, but everybody seems to remember Escape from LA more so than Escape from New York.
Which wasn't even all that great a movie, at least in my opinion. I don't think it really doesn't compare to the first one.
I watched it again recently, and it was kind of ahead of its time. Some of the things that they were talking about kind of gel. Modern audience can kind of appreciate it a little bit more now. So kind of forward thinking. I don't know that it's Carpenter's one of his top of the line movies, but it was a lot better because of those things going, oh yeah, I can see where they're coming from. I mean, you have a zealous head of state and kind of a moralistic power structure.
Yeah.
It is not exactly The Handmaid's Tale, but it was a foreshadowing of some of the things that we've seen in real life politics lately. So
it could actually happen.
Yeah.
What if states truly seceded and they have to start bordering off these areas?
So it gave me a deeper appreciation for it. Although I do like Escape from New York better, but it may not be the equal of the first, but most sequels aren't. But it's certainly better than I remembered it being. So.
Well, the one thing that I didn't like about LA is that they made it as if it was a penal colony. It's like it's more like you had a choice. If you went against the country, you had a choice. Either to face the tribunal with possible death or to be shipped out to LA with no recourse of coming back.
Right.
And the thing is to people who've never lived in California, or even especially not in the LA area, that doesn't work because you would have to all of the canyons. You would have to vacate all the canyons. You would have to vacate areas like Studio City, Century City, Beverly Hills. There are a ton of exceptionally well-to-do neighborhoods in LA that you would basically have to burn to the ground in order to turn it into.
Not necessarily. It could just be wildfires.
No, that's not what they explained what happened, because it literally became a penal colony because they said that the faults broke and it shifted. If I remember the movie correctly,
the San Andreas went off.
Everything shifted. It was in the middle of the ocean as of right now.
Okay, because I was about to say you're talking Coldwater Canyon, you're talking Beverly Hills. Like I said, there are at least 25 solidly upper class white neighborhoods, not to mention an exceptionally upper class black area where the median home price is about 1.5 million. It's just, there's a lot of really toning, and downtown, which used to be like after lights went out with Skid Row after dark, is now become this very upscale you know, because Disney's bought out a lot of downtown. But,
Gentrification too, right?
huh?
Gentrification.
Yeah, exception. In fact, the Skid Row area they literally got rid of. They've had to fight to keep certain areas of Skid Row for the people who've been there forever. They've had to fighting with the city council to at least make sure the folks, because there were people who they found old warehouse spaces and stuff that they were sort of moving into it and making livable.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've had to fight to be able to maintain some things. It's like, if we do this, this, and this, you just get off our backs. You know, if we make sure that, you know, everybody who's been here has a place and they're not making a problem for people, you know. So, but a lot of what used to be there, they have pretty much bulldozed it in face of the new upscale downtown. But it used to be the joke that downtown LA shut down after 5 p.m. because that's when all the businesses closed. All the lawyers who couldn't afford Santa Monica or was it Santa Monica or not Hollywood, Beverly Hills offices. They had offices. You had a lot of high-powered lawyers and even some agents that had their offices downtown. You have a lot of corporations in downtown LA. So from sun up to 5 o'clock, that's when all the, it's like our downtown is getting now. You know, you have areas where there are restaurants that after 4 o'clock, they shut down. Because
not even after 4 o'clock, after 2:30. After 2:30, after that lunch rush, they're done.
Yeah, there are parts of the loop that are now becoming ghost town. You know, and there are places, but even so, there's still places within that are open, but you have to know about them. Was that you?
Easy there.
Oh, that was my computer telling me that Brian messaged us on the chat.
Oh. I wonder if they're like, who doing what and how and why? It's like,
sorry,
was that me? It's like,
no,
who doing what?
No, that was. I'm so sorry. It was squishy the toy. Oh, Leia just got in.
Hey, Leia.
Yep, I saw she was up here like, yay, Kurt Russell. She liked Kurt Russell,
but she hates Escape from LA.
But again, Escape from LA was no New York. Escape from New York had a purpose.
Yes,
because it showed how corrupt the government was and the means of what I believe the length of what the president would go through just to prove a point about how much power he had. To have one person go in to try to save his daughter who didn't want to be saved. That she would rather be in this lawless state of New York than to be on his side. But that was the key thing. It's like the key thing was like the very end when the president found out that Snake actually had that recording to prove that he didn't just go in there for the sake of just going in there. He went in there up under his orders, which implicated him as not being as the quote unquote moralistic leader that everybody else thought he was.
Yeah, clay feet.
Yep. But that it's like when Escape from LA started off with that, and it was like, look, we will forgive that transgression if you go and do this for us. But what they didn't tell him is like, hey, we're not going to plan for you to ever get back. We just need for you to take out these people. And that's it. I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Mhm.
It's like that's not some type of, hey, I got a mission for you. That's just like go in there because we say so, and we'll let you be.
We just have no intention of ever letting you be outside again.
Mm-hmm. You're not in our good graces anymore to be with us. And I still don't get the whole basketball thing.
I can't remember the
It's like, yeah, the whole basketball. You don't remember? It's like
it's been a long time since I sat down and watched it.
They got to it was like this one leader, and as a form of a trial as a form of a trial, when you transgressed against him, you had an option. You could face some other type of tribunal of his choosing, or you could take your chances at a game of basketball. And the way that it works is that you have to play full court. The whole goal is you score 7 points, you get to walk free. You have to run from one end to the other end, and you had 3 minutes in order to do this. If you miss a shot, you get shot. And you keep on going until the 3 minutes are up. So it's like either you die trying it, or you get your 7 points and walk away. Snake did it, and he still tried to gun him down afterwards.
That's just sick. That does sound a lot like the incoming, administration. We won't say any more than that. But
and I remember the line so much. It's like, oh, by the way, there's no 3-point bullshit. We don't do that here. I'm like, what in the world am I watching at this point?
Got to watch Beetlejuice this week.
Oh, so did I. I saw it on the weekend. What did you think?
It starts off a little slow. It kind of took a little while for it to get traction, but then I enjoyed it a lot. It had a decent sense of humor as it went along. It was kind of stolid at the start, I thought. But
well, if you think about the first Beetlejuice, it also started rather slow.
Yep.
We're introduced to the Maitlands. He's doing, it looks like it's going to be one type of movie, and then slowly begins to shift over to the left and just something altogether different. But once it gets going, and they started so many shout outs to what had already been done before, that were just, and poor Bob. Can we all take a moment and just show some love for Bob? Okay, Bob got love, but it's just, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but then I remembered Keaton was very strict about what had to happen for him to do this. And they had to follow. And it was, if you want to do something different, go do it. Just don't expect me to be part of it. It's like, if you want me in this movie, then you have to. The only disappointment I had, spoilers, and I get one of the people aren't available, but there were no Maitlands.
There was no what?
Yeah.
I missed the Maitlands.
The Maitland ghosts, the family that had lived in the house.
I got the explanation. I know why.
No, it's
especially
not
at the time in which it was being shot and what they had to do, and I don't know if I would have been happy with a fat dude anyway. He's just no longer sexy. So, but I wanted to see Gina Davis. I also, I did want to see, I wanted to end with another, calypso song and dancing football players.
They tried to make MacArthur Park their new.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! My goddaughter and I were watching it, and I was just busting a gut. And she was looking at me like, "What on earth is wrong with you?" And I had to explain to her what it was and why this thing had, significance and meaning and everything. And she's just looking at me like, they make medication for whatever's wrong with you, right?
But no, that's connection within a movie, I mean, I get why you want the Maitlands up in there, but would you really want to see them older in that aspect here? That's what
like
what ended up happening because Lydia had her own daughter, so that means that there was several years that went on.
Yeah, I get it, and like I said, I get it. It's just there's that part of me. I miss the Maitlands.
I was surprised that the character of Charlie Dietz was in it, or Charles Dietz, as much as he was. Just the character. I know why the actor was not, but they said, he's passed away. They're coming back for his funeral, and I thought, well, that's a way to
didn't
write
the guy
it out.
who played him die?
No,
Only
professionally, but yeah, because he got into troubles.
Okay.
So, but the character was still, because I had thought, well, yeah, you write out the character by killing him off. That doesn't write him out of this kind of movie. The dead are all through this kind of movie. So I really thought this was a clever way to include the character, the way that he died and everything worked into the entire, even the flashback was with like a claymation.
Oh, that was so cute.
It was cute. It was
so cute.
Yeah. So that surprised me in a good way.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked that the mom, I liked that in the end, they sort of, they had that sort of, in the end, they were able to make amends with each other.
Yeah.
That they could, that, her being mad because Lydia never accepted her. But that happens. You have this life with your parents and something happens and this new person comes in and there's this sort of demand on you that this other person is now crap and it's the new person that you have to bond with in order to make me happy, and I always got the feeling that he kind of ignored both of them to some degree, though the horny handyman line will never die.
Oh no.
I've got to paint that on something. I don't care. He was my horny handyman. I'm like, yep, okay. It was like, okay, I don't know who dreamed that line up, but you keep on working and make sure you get top dollar, because that had us rolling. It's like the whole thing, but it was kind of like he let them, he never tried to be that bridge for them, working with the new mom to get a better idea of how to deal with the daughter, working with the daughter to get a better idea of how to accept the new mom. He just sort of went on and did his thing and kind of left them to it, which made me sad. It was like, you're the bridge. Well, you need to be the bridge.
Well, that's the whole thing that kind of made me go back to the original movie, because the original movie, the deal that was made was never made with any of the Deets as a whole. They were just an after effect of what was asked of him to try to scare them away.
Yeah, his job was supposed to get rid of the Deets.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what it is he glommed onto Lydia. And I always wonder if he glommed
Lydia
onto Lydia.
first. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Lydia discovered him, and Lydia did not run away. They
No.
kind of bonded. And then he went off the deep end and it's like, oh yeah, we about to get married. Like,
Yeah, that's I'm very happy with the animated series. They never went back to that. It was with, I don't know if you ever saw the animated Beetlejuice.
oh, I love the anime, the Saturday morning cartoon one. That made a lot more sense and bridged the movie to the cartoon, because you could wipe out the whole marriage thing as him just being who he was.
Yeah.
At that point, but we knew that there was a bonding between Beetlejuice and the I can't even think of the other couple's names again. You mentioned
The Maitlands. The Maitlands.
The Maitlands. Because remember, Lydia bonded with the Maitlands. So Lydia was the glue that bonded all of them together. And then coming into this movie, it's like, well, what's the whole thing with Lydia's daughter now? Because I don't understand the deal that was made
I get
with
it.
Beetlejuice
Oh,
at this point.
well, there were 2 deals in the second movie. Okay, guys, we're gonna. I can do this, but I have to spoil it. The first deal with Lydia was wiped out. The Maitlands kind of, because his job was he was supposed to get rid of the Dietzes, but the Maitlands made peace with that. And Beetlejuice, the whole point with Lydia was she was so unhappy that, and all the people that she was close to were ghosts. So she thought, well, maybe if I'm dead and I become one of the dead, I'll be with people who actually love me. So she was willing to make that deal with Beetlejuice, because if she thought if she let him out, she could go be with the Maitlands, and that would, and she would have a happy ever after life.
That's
the Maitlands,
that okay.
The Maitlands put the kibosh on it,
right at the
by
end.
not allowing, by breaking out, by disrupting the marriage, so it didn't go through. So they disrupted that contract.
Well, they reneged on theirs. They canceled their original one to save Lydia.
Yes.
That's my understanding of the first movie.
They canceled theirs, but they also were able to, because the marriage basically did not go through, Lydia did not have to go into the afterlife, because he wanted her to switch places with her, which is what that other guy wanted Lydia to do with Lydia's daughter.
Okay. So he tried to extend the original Lydia contract to the daughter.
Well,
it didn't matter as long as it was a Dietz in blood.
That I don't think he knew she was a Dietz.
Okay. Because
Lydia didn't know about the house until the real estate owner told her about it. Lydia didn't know about that place. I think he picked up on her daughter's depression, the negative energy coming off her. He picked up on it and then was using that, because she didn't believe Lydia was real in regards to her ability to see ghosts. She didn't think she was a true medium, because Lydia she would ask Lydia, "Where's my dad?" And Lydia would say, "I don't see him." And she didn't, because her dad wasn't somewhere where Lydia could contact him.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad was put into what is basically like government service. So yeah, she couldn't see him because he was somewhere where she could not. He was not making any contact with the living world. He wasn't in a haunted house, where he was stuck in one spot. He died. He got eaten by piranhas, and then, but, his afterlife was working as a government service, like the Lander sisters. This is what happened in my afterlife. That's what happens in his afterlife. So she couldn't see him because he was somewhere she her vision can't go beyond a certain spot in the afterlife. So if you're on that side of the veil, she can't see you. It's only if you're in a house that's haunted or something, and then she can, because you're closer to this side of reality. She can see those ghosts and help them cross over. But she couldn't see her ex-husband. And the daughter just thought, well, if you really were good, then you could see him and you'd be real. But you're not real, so this is all a lie.
And that's the thing that she never understood. It's like, no, there's limitations. But again, with Lydia's mother being the way that she was as a artiste, she never could understand it herself, let alone tell other people what was going on.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we see a much, I wasn't prepared to like it because, like I said, I had loved the animated series. And in the movie, we see a much different Lydia from the first movie and the animation. The Lydia, and I don't want to spoil it, but she's kind of a basket case. You know, she is very much a basket case in need of therapy. The Lydia from the first movie, from the series, is her own person. She knows who she is. She knows where she has a center, you know, and she's pretty much in many ways self-reliant. Yes, she and Beetlejuice go off and they have adventures and stuff, but she can handle it. She can deal with it. All these things are okay. She's made peace with the way life is. The Lydia, the adult Lydia we see in the movie, she's got this guy who is he's a leech. Let's be honest, he's just a leech. And he's BSing her. You know, he's BSing her, and she's falling for it because he gives her something to glom onto. You know, he's her little security blanket because she's so lost and terrified. And I'm like, why are you even doing this? You know, if you're so afraid of making contact with Beetlejuice again, why are you even doing this? Because it didn't make much sense. But, you know,
it wasn't explained.
That's
the way I looked at it.
I like the Ortega girl. And I started getting into more of her part of the story. And of course, you know, Kevin's mom, she's just glorious in whatever she does. And nobody does insanity better than her. You know, this is my art, and my art is dangerous. You know, my art is dangerous. Don't you get that? You know, she's just.
She plays that role so well. Even in the first movie, it was just like
she was having so much fun in that movie, and you can tell she's having fun in this one too, more so than any of the Home Alone films. You know, you could tell she is having. Though at one point, I kind of went. At some point, she needs to sit up, you know, wake up from a night and go, Kevin. Just, you know, just but she was so good, and she and the Ortega girl had some great scenes together, and I started getting into it from her perspective and seeing where she was going, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna just sort of post because it's like, I don't know what's up with you, girl, but you know, therapy and I don't know, update your wardrobe. Just because it's like I had to point it out to my goddaughter. The outfit she's wearing, Winona Ryder's outfit, it's her Catholic school outfit. It's just an updated version of the same outfit she wears in the first movie.
And that what threw me off, because when Winona Ryder's character Lydia, there's a lot of stuff that happened in between those years that was never truly explained. And when they said that, you know, Gina Davis and what's his name was no longer there, I was like, well, that means her center, her grounding
It was like losing her parents.
Not just losing her parents, it's like losing understanding of what was going on in the world as a whole. Because you got to understand, her mom was in her own little world. Even though she tried to reach out to her, she never understood what Lydia was going through. It was just more along the lines like, oh, that's fine, honey, this, that, and the other. You know, I'm all thumbs up. I'm positive that you will come through this perfectly fine without really getting involved. So now you have to think, you know, when the first movie happened, she was what, 12?
No, she was supposed to be about 14, 15.
Okay, 14, 15. She's in her late 30s now.
Yep.
A lot of damage could happen growing up from a teenager to that point.
Well, if you think about how the first movie ends, because the first movie ends, she's found a place. You know, and I always love the way the first movie ends, where they do the Sonora song. Sonora. Yeah, and she's and the Maitlands float are in the air, and then that the football players are dancing underneath, you know, up and they're dancing too. So it's like, okay, so
but you remember what she says, like the Maitlands is like the first thing that they asked her is like, well, how did you do on your test at school? They were involved with her life.
Yes, and she had passed the written test, but when she was supposed to dissect a frog, she told me it was against her religion or something like that. When Alec Baldwin's character gets kind of fussy with her, Gina Davis says, "Oh, honey, you failed algebra." So you know, it's very much a mom and dad thing. But I keep thinking the Maitlands had already died tragically when they passed on. You know, the way the lore in the series is put, when you pass on, it's because everything you need to make peace with on this side, you've done. And the only thing they would have had to do, because at first they don't realize they're dead. When it happens, they don't realize they're dead. And the house was what, that house, loving the town, was what sort of kept them anchored. Well, what kept them staying probably was Lydia. But there was probably a point at which when Lydia got out of high school, had gone to college or whatever, was getting into her adulthood, when they kind of realized we've done as much as we can do, especially since they're not her parents. And they can't keep her anchored in the world of the dead. She needs to go out there and have a life. And I'm thinking sometime around, probably before Lydia went off and got married, they probably said, you know what, we've gone as far as we can go.
But that still doesn't explain her being able to see things, because again, that power does not leave you. Even if she goes to college.
No, but I'm thinking that the Maitlands, to keep them locked, and they couldn't go beyond the house anyway. So what was she supposed to do? It would have kept her locked.
They could go anywhere within that town, but they couldn't go anywhere. They can't go with her, like if she went to, like, you know, let's say University of Chicago. That's too
and she
far.
Comes and the thing is she was in New York or something when all this starts. So she wasn't living in the town. So at the point in which she was getting ready to get married and move on with her life, they were like, we have taken you as far as we can. Go out there, live a life, whatever. And then that gives them the right to move on. What got me was the fact that, oh, shoot, Carl's got to run.
Okay.
You know, Carl's got to run. And he says, have everybody have a great holiday.
Okay.
You know, but I kind of felt that there was a point at which they needed to let her go forward. And so long as they were there, she wasn't going to move forward in her life. There would always be that part of her that would be connected. And I think they wanted, they had made peace with what had gone on to what happened to them. You know, they let Lydia go on to have her life, and then there was no need for them to stay. They had done everything and a bit more than they needed. And so they were able to move on. What got me about it, that didn't bother me as much as how is this, because we had it had the first movie did so well, it spawned an animated series. This movie just sort of took the entire animated series and acted as if they retconned it. It's as if it never happened.
I never saw it as a retcon, to be quite honest, because the mind of a 14-year-old is far different than
she is so terrified of him in the second movie. She is not just terrified of him, she is traumatized. Just the idea of him freaks her out. And that to me is like, okay,
that's the part that I want them to explain.
And they never do. Because most they'll do is
go ahead.
All they will just do is when she just says, oh, well, he tried to marry me. But it doesn't, they don't, it doesn't, if you've seen the first movie, you kind of get, oh, she's traumatized by this, but it doesn't end with her being traumatized, which means, well, they had pretty much locked him away. He couldn't cross over again. The Maitland's room where the little town was had been locked. So I don't get what she wasn't traumatized at the end of the first movie.
She wasn't. I will give you that.
And that's why I was disappointed with Lydia, because she was relatively happy to be that traumatized. To me, that's the part that lost me. I was disappointed in the Lydia Dietz character at the beginning of the film, because it was not the Lydia Dietz that we had seen at the end of the first film or even in the animated series. This Lydia, it was like the ending of the first film had never happened. It was like they got her out of the marriage, they locked up their little model, and that was it. It was, the whole happy dancing, living a life, making peace with the Dietzes, coexisting. None of that seemed to happen.
I just still feel the way that I feel, that they never explained what happened in those developmental years, because you have to understand, at 14 she's seeing ghosts. That's not normal in the first place. The Maitlands were there. The
Maitlands took revenge on Joe. They froze him. Oh my goodness. He doesn't know he's frozen. Welcome to the Frozen Joe Show.
No, now I'm back. It did something weird. Okay. As I was saying, the last movie ended with the Maitlands being there. But the question I have is that they never addressed the fact that she could see spirits the way that she did at the age of 14. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything was hunky-dory. I give you the fact that, she didn't seem like she was traumatized, but at the same time, they never truly addressed the elephant in the room about why she was able to see spirits and how often it happened. And the fact that her actual biological mother and father really don't know that she has this ability. So that could drive her cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in its own sense, in that aspect here.
Well, the Mrs. Dietz in the movie series is not her biological mother. That's her stepmother. Mm-hmm. That's Charles's second wife. We never see Lydia's actual mother. Charles buys the house for the second wife, brings Lydia with him. We never see Lydia's mother. We never hear from Lydia's mother.
But even with that being said, it's still the same,
Dietz is
same aspect.
Charles Dietz
Nobody
is her actual,
understood that ability that she had.
no,
Nobody knew.
and but you know what? Odo got the book too. Remember, Odo found the book,
Mhm.
and Odo found their copy of the book and used it against the Maitlands. He was the one that let Mama Dietz know. You know, he shows her, oh, we don't need Lydia. They knew that she had some connection with them because Odo then makes a suggestion to Mrs. Dietz that they don't need Lydia. They can bring up when the dinner party doesn't go well. He finds the book and says, "Oh well, we don't need her. We can do it ourselves." Because he's going to
And they
use
go, oh, goody, a seance.
yes, because everybody's thinking this. It'll just be some flashing lights, you know. Maybe a little incense will burn. We'll have some booze, a few laughs. It's not going to be anything serious. And so, and then of course,
Wait. I just seen what Leia just said here. It's like Charles Dietz knows that she could see the dead. He can too because of the seance with the handbook. It still wasn't addressed. Again, that power as a 14-year-old needs to be kind of like addressed and guidance to be had. Because it could that type of stuff could drive you crazy, especially if you go into somebody else's house and now you're seeing something else happening and you can't tell anybody else what you're actually seeing.
once again, the ending of the first movie then doesn't make sense because she had made peace with it. And so to go from relatively peace to I am traumatized beyond belief, two completely different. She suddenly, the girl from the Scream movies was better adjusted. Girly from the Screams, Maeve Campbell or whatever from Scream series was better adjusted.
Say no, no.
Yeah, it was never addressed why Lydia could see Beetlejuice and the Maitlands.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
nor did they address it in the sequel. You're right.
You know, other than the fact that she is strange and unusual. Doesn't work for me either.
Don't cough it out. The second movie isn't good. It has no plot, nothing for Monica Bellucci to do. Doesn't answer anything. It looks cut down to shit. I don't know. I don't know about that because the way that they got it set up, it's like they set it up more so for the lore of Beetlejuice as opposed to being a direct sequel. Because a lot of the characters did a lot of the stuff that I wanted to know what happened in those years never happened.
Like I said, they totally erased the animated series because the Lydia in the animated series was a healthy child. Yeah, her friend
faces.
Her friend may have been an undead character, but it just, you know, it's very different than to go from I'm relatively okay with this, you know, because even the Dietzes had made peace with the Maitlands, kind of like, you're not going anywhere, we're not going anywhere because we own this now. And, you know, Charles doesn't give up real estate easy. And so they have this, like, by the end of the first movie, they've sort of not bonded because, again, Lydia's the connection. But, you know, when the stepmom, you know, she makes that head of Beetlejuice and she goes, Charles, look at my latest piece. And he turns around and it's a Beetlejuice bust, you know. And she walks around like, yep, I've done my job. You know, so each, you know, they've each in their own way had made peace with their situation as it was. So it didn't make sense to suddenly there is all this trauma. It made no sense from someone who had teenage trauma and has had to go through 30 combined 30 years of therapy. That just doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. And like I said, there were a lot of things that were fun and funny that I just sort of like, okay, I'm going to ignore that and just enjoy this part, go through this part of it and see what happens. Maureen O'Hara, sorry, Maureen, I screwed up your name for so long. Maureen O'Hara is, she's a joy to watch, and she was having fun. And it was kind of like her saying, don't worry about anything else that's happening. Just stay with me and have fun. And look, I've got snakes.
I mean, it's just like that one experience. She just kind of like vibed off of it. It's like it expanded my whole artist career. I was like, I mean, I just felt sorry for Ortho at that point. Because it's like
we didn't see
it's like Ortho as an age, it's just like, how am I going to deal with her now? Since we open up this door, she can't let go of it.
Yeah, you open up the door, you can't close it again. But the thing is we don't see her seeing any other ghosts. She doesn't see any other ghosts.
She doesn't have the ability to.
Yeah, she doesn't see any other ghosts until she actually is one, and then she finally gets to see Charles again. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. She sees him, and it doesn't bother her that he doesn't have a head. It was like you got the top up Jaws treatment. Anybody who ever saw the opening 10 minutes of Jaws will get that one.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just I was happy at the end that Lydia finally made peace. If they ever think about doing another one of these, I don't know if I'll watch it.
I don't think they can. That, to be quite honest, they can't. I don't think they can, because it's the story. They could, to get Keenan to do it for a third time, they have to do something and address the lore correctly. I don't think they're going to do that.
And it may just be one of those situations that Burton never really gave much thought to the lore. Because if you've seen a lot of his movies, sometimes it's more, especially if it's not something that's already based on source material, like Coraline or something like that.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was The Nightmare Before Christmas and all the side stuff that came out for Nightmare Before Christmas, dealing with Jack Skellington.
But I'm saying if it's something that he himself is making up, I think it's just sort of like, oh, I have this great idea. What if we do? We have these particular characters, and they do these particular things, and it ends this particular way. And he may or may not call Johnny Depp and go, "Hey, you want to do this?" Because they work a lot together. But the background stories and lore, I don't think he's big on.
No, I don't think so.
He's not a big lore. If it's not something like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where, because he wanted to do a different version of that, to actually go to that area and have his writer do some research and find out about the Hessian and all of this, so that he could do a different version, a different take on that story. But he's got source material other than what's in his own head to work with. But I think if he's going to do something that's totally him making it up, he doesn't give it a lot of source material. He's not big on lore and background. It's like, oh, I just want to do this particular thing based on this quick idea I had, and let's see where it goes.
Hence movies like The Corpse Bride, which to me was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, no, like I said, he will do things that are really great, but for something like this, to do a second Beetlejuice, you would have really had to build up some serious lore, which he didn't. which he didn't do. And I think I don't think he did Beetlejuice because he was desperate to do another Beetlejuice movie. I think he was getting pressured to do another Beetlejuice movie or produce something. And so, excuse me, this may have been a contractual obligation.
Yep. Well, we're into the second hour. And
we're into the second hour, and
yeah,
I'm about
from
ready
our
to
plans
die.
to do the book, the reviews.
Yep.
Beforehand, to do it first, because again, we got new people in the house here. We got Heroes for Hire Club already in the house, so welcome on in. Everybody's saying howdy. Elaine said that she doesn't have a book, and
I don't have one.
Yep.
I'm actually going to take my phone in my room. I'm going to go off camera because my fever is spiking. I can feel
that's
it.
Not good.
Yeah, if you notice, my head is getting more and more shiny because my fever has started to spike. I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to go in my room. I will have my phone so I can still moderate the chat. I just won't be actively part of the show.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Not a problem.
Okay, dokie. Bye, guys. I'll be in the chat. So, I'm just leaving the camera. Bye. My stupid.
All right. So for me, the choices have been narrowed down to four different choices here. We could have one with introduction, one that, or I could do the one where I was like, oh well, it's like they did something almost right, but they still got it wrong. Or we could do the book that I consider it's like, oh wow, I didn't think they was going to go there with it. Or we could revisit the book that people wanted me to review. So those are your four options.
Everybody vote.
Yeah, everybody vote here. To repeat the options, we have the one that has the intro, the one that, oh wow, they tried to do something right, but they also got it wrong at the same time. Or the one where I was like, oh wow, that's kind of neat that they're going that way with it, and I never thought it was going to go that way. Or the one that everybody wanted me to review in the first place. They're four different books.
Well, while they vote, have you watched any of the Creature Commandos? There's 3 episodes that have dropped on.
No,
Max.
I haven't watched Creature Commandos on Max as of yet.
It's a James Gunn written and backed project, and you can really tell it. They had the 3rd episode centers on G.I. Robot and his history. It has a bunch of DC background stuff, Easter eggs and things. So, I don't know. The comic shop talk this week was about how does that equate to a big budget Superman movie with a major character? How does the first part of this new DCU being the Creature Commandos animated work with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know how he'll do major characters. I just know that I really enjoy it when he does these minor or somewhat obscure characters, and you get some really interesting background, and then he makes you care about the characters. He did that with Peacemaker. So I'm enjoying it. It's not for kids. It's animated, but it definitely has an adult theme to it. But and something more kid friendly. Disney Plus is running the Skeleton Crew, which is Star Wars if you like the Goonies and that kind of but it has a really good mystery behind it too. So I'm not really sure where it fits into the bigger scheme of Star Wars. It may disappoint in that, but I'm enjoying the kind of path that they're wandering along with. Okay, this is more than meets the eye, and it has a lot of fun. I think Favreau's having a lot of fun just playing in the Star Wars sandbox with kids, with young protagonists, and Jude Law as like the main adult character in it so far. So
That's good. I just haven't seen anything since Penguin. I watched all of the Penguin, so
that's hard to be. I think that's probably on my best of for 2024 lists of any kind of streaming show or anything. It was very well written, I thought.
well, again, I just got through seeing the last season of Cobra Kai too.
Ah, okay. What'd you think about that?
It sets up everything for what I think was being hyped up with all these memes and wannabe trailers for another Karate Kid movie.
Mm-hmm.
And not to ruin anything, we finally get to the world tournament. You know, the with all the different kids and everything, they finally got to the point and everything. They finally gave them the rules. They could only take six of them can go and everything. So they finally went through the training. They had a whole thing with Mike Barnes coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know who Mike Barnes is, just think about Karate Kid 3, the bad boy of karate.
Yeah.
You have the adult version of Sasha from what was it? Yeah, Step by Step. So the character that played him was actually the bad boy of karate and Karate Kid 3. So adult version of him comes back to help them out to get them ready for the world tournament. They finally go over to Barcelona, and I stopped there because no spoilers, because something definitely happened that's going to change, that's going to turn everything on its head.
Yep.
Because there was a couple of secrets that came out about Mr. Miyagi that Daniel did not know about.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back down to the tournament that they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to say much of anything beyond that here. And let me see here. Nice try, but my vote is my fail. But fail is my vote. Nice try, but fail is my vote. Okay, so I know which book she wants here. I think nobody else had voted as of yet.
Okay.
And then she's up here. It's like Karate Kid ran like 2 seasons too long. Yeah, it did.
It does feel.
It did, and like I said, no spoilers with this last season. I'm not going to say my full spiel, but she has a very good point.
True. Yeah, I get that.
It's like there's some plot points up in here that I was like, yeah, it ran too long, and it just like it didn't make it. Some things just didn't make any sense. Yeah, she erased Karate Kid 3 from her memory. You also probably erased the next Karate Kid from your memory too. The Hilary Swank one.
Yeah.
Most people erased that one too, but yeah, Karate Kid 3 was one of the ones that they never did. It's 1 and 2, and the next. Oh, she likes Hilary Swank.
Next Karate Kid. Okay.
No, I'm not talking. No, the Jaden Smith one was called the Karate Kid too. Is it the Karate Kid? No, we're talking about. I know which one you're talking about. Hilary Swank. I like that one better than 3. Yeah. At least Mr. Miyagi was in it.
I was going to ask you, Jay.
Like I said, I can't ruin stuff. I can't ruin stuff because I understand where things are going to go with this new Karate Kid movie.
Yeah,
and they're going to explain a lot more coming in this movie and why and tie it into the Jaden Smith one. Yeah. They already kind of put us in that path.
Mm-hmm. They've lubed the connection to make it smooth. So
the real Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
Nobody said that Mr. Han is Miyagi. Nobody's going to say that.
Right.
But like I said, I'm not going to do spoilers for that last season either.
Right. So we got the Kraven the Hunter movie opening.
Oh yeah.
This weekend. And Oh, Joker Folie Deux premieres on Max tomorrow, Friday the 13th. So way to go, Warner Brothers, at keeping up that perfect timing and everything. um, but I was going to ask you, Joe, have you had any troubles with the getting your books, your Diamond books that you get?
Only thing I know is what the people who do my pull list are saying.
What are they saying?
They had a hard time from time to time with Diamond for certain books, but not all books. But it looks like, speaking of which, let's see, I forgot which company pulled away from Diamond just this week.
Boom is going to be
another company
switching.
that pulled away from Diamond that's no longer being distributed by Diamond.
Boom.
Yeah.
Distributing is Boom is going to be going with a different distributor by July of next year. They've signed with Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
So this is looked as, Diamond doesn't have a whole lot of horses still in the race as far as companies. They're smaller companies, but I got my Diamond catalog to order from this week, and it has to be turned in by next week. That is running 2 weeks behind or 3 behind what it's supposed to be doing, and the comic books are running behind too. In fact, I read a little article about it. They shut down a warehouse in October that they had kind of planned it, but then they just suddenly did it. Shut this warehouse down, and then everything was running late. And they're like, "Oh, it's a warehouse thing. We're sorry." And so now,
I'll leave the comment up there for you, where you can read that. That's hilarious.
Central Park had some cab horses left in the race. Yeah, exactly. But so now they're, in some, like my comic shop, that's where they get their Marvel books still.
Mm-hmm.
You have other options, but the most economical one for them is to get them through Diamond. So that means that everybody's Marvel stuff's been 2 weeks late since October.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're getting all, Diamond's getting all these complaints from retailers and from their customers, and their response is very brief, which has led to speculation. Also, the article that I read said that there were a whole lot of behind the scenes, we're laying people off, but we're not telling anybody about it, and we're not going to make it public. We're just laying several people off. And then, are we going to replace the person over here that quit recently? No, we're just going to leave that blank. We'll leave that spot open for now. So now there's a lot of speculation that they could, one of two things. They're thinking that either they're getting ready to sell the company and they're not going to invest a whole lot in it, just to try to get a better price, to just not hemorrhage while they try to sell it. Well, it's still that might be a viable option, or they're going to declare bankruptcy. So I don't know, but
the latter seems like it might happen more so than anything else, because I have not heard in the rumor mill that anybody is in the market of buying a distributor.
Yeah,
especially of something of Diamond's caliber.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't see a lot of people chomping at the bit, smaller publisher wise, trying to jump onto getting onto Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Diamond pretty much have done too many of the small press wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 11, unbeknownst to us collectors and unbeknownst to the fat cats, Diamond is dead.
Well, could be, maybe not.
Well, again, I know I kind of wish that my channel hasn't gone through what it went through, but Chuck from Mile High Comics said it best.
Okay.
And if you ever followed the whole thing about how the direct market came into being,
mm-hmm.
Diamond was put on a pedestal for a reason, and Diamond was put on a pedestal mainly by DC. They lost DC. They lost Marvel. They lost all the bigger people that's in the game. Their only method of staying alive was to reinvent the distribution for smaller publishers like myself and other people. They did not want to do that. They wanted, because again, we're the big name. We had all these bigger names, but you lost them. I mean, you have to think about it. Before you became the sole monopolizing factor in the direct market, there were so many other people out there. There was competition. Guess what? Now, since the big people are left you and the market for competition came back,
you didn't fare well in that competition, did you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly here.
I just wondered how it affected. I know it affected us here, a very little venue, but I didn't know how it affected you in Chicago.
She wants me to say it. She wants me to say my term. She wants me to say my term, but that's not what I say it. She said the number crunchers and the paper pushers have all seen doom. Right, the writing is on the wall. Leia with her friends Joe and Clyde dance with glee on their graves, keeping up the 1982. She had a point with that one. She has a point with that one. They were keeping up the practice of what DC wanted them to do when they fed them their direct marketed plan. Because remember, DC had their own direct marketing aspect that they was running through their own distribution, and it was like, you know what? Screw that. We will just give all our books to the best distributor that could make sure that we could get the biggest bang for our buck. And eventually, little by little, by DC cutting distributors off, they weaned it all the way down, and then Diamond was left. By that time, Marvel caught wind of this and did the exact same thing, making it one entity. They have no idea how to be competitive in this market anymore.
Yeah.
That's the real problem.
I could definitely see that. Yeah. So, do we have any other votes besides Liz?
Yeah. Anybody else is ready to vote here, or we
just? It's not. I'll vote for hers too, so that gives you a minority or a majority of
majority. Okay. So we're not going to have our intro. We're not going to have anything else, but we're going to talk about the one thing that's like, nice try. I appreciate it.
Close, but no cigar.
No, in better words, in the terms. I'm not sorry if you remember the cartoon of Two Stupid Dogs. Oh, that is so cute, but it's wrong. That's my reaction to it.
Okay.
That's like, oh my goodness, it's like they got the majority of this right, but it's wrong. That's not how this character would react. That would not be her most correct reaction. You got everything right except this one thing.
Sometimes those are more irritating than if they got the whole thing wrong and you could just write it off.
Right.
If it's like, oh, they've hit the this they fired on this cylinder well. Oh, they fired on the second cylinder beautifully. I'm really liking this. The third cylinder went off without a hitch. Okay, then the fourth cylinder goes spark knock, and you go, damn it.
And that was the thing here. And to get into the review, the book that was chosen by you, the viewers here, is Birds of Prey number 14. Now, this is not a knock on Kelly Thompson, because Kelly Thompson has been writing a great story. However, there is one scene in here where one of my favorite characters was written in such a way where it's like, yeah, all this stuff adds up, but no, that's not the reason why she would react that way. But we'll get into it, because now by issue 14, we have came back from that void, that mystical void and everything, and it starts out with the next mission here. We got Cassandra Cain coming into this one corporation here in Gotham called the Night Day Corporation and everything. So she kind of walks in and everything. She talked about, well, I have like a 9 o'clock appointment, this, that, and the other, yada, yada, yada. It's like, are they ready for me? This, that, and the other. So she just keeps walking in. It's like nobody is there to stop her. And then she walks in. It's like, oh, you're here at this, that, and the other. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, I could come back. I could come back at 12, but it's going to cost you. So pretty much before she could get that out, big major fight happens and everything. It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me, this, that, and the other. And this, she pretty much beats up all the security that came up in there. And then she took the gun away from her. It's like, I thought the whole thing was no guns. Yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, fine. We'll try this again at 12. And yes, now it's officially going to cost you double. So pretty much we don't know why Cassandra Cain is there at this moment here, but the scene shifts back over to the Birds of Prey headquarters here, where we have Barbara going up here. It's like, nope, she has a check-in, and we just know it's a little bit delayed here. She just let us know that there wasn't ready and this, that, and the other, and then she's up here talking about Nubia because there was something important that was going on, and I believe that Nubia was just trying to make certain that there was no other hitches in this so-called mission where Cassandra is coming in. And then we're seeing, and I just realized what all these pictures were here. These are pictures of missing Themyscirians. I didn't pay attention to that the first time around, but that's what the pictures that they had up on the screens were. So Dinah is up here, reassuring to Nubia that everything is going according to plan, this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden there's a loud noise and this, that, and the other. And we have Big Barter in her armor, kind of working out, trying to get through some of the frustration and everything. And she was asking, it's like, well, what's going on with Cassandra? And she's like, well, we haven't heard anything as of yet, this, that, and the other. We got to be patient. And she's like, okay, fine. I'll be patient for a little bit longer. So this is the beginning of what was like how Clyde was saying, oh, they're about to hit this stuff right down, hit this one right out of the park, because it's like, yeah, this is kind of like how she would react to something like that, especially if she's waiting on something for a mission. She would be just that way. She was like, okay, have we heard from it? It's like, okay, fine, we just won't move out just yet. So now maybe somebody else could help me out here. So we got Grace Choi, and I forgot the other person's name here. Now, mind you, the other thing that I do know, we're in modern DC here. So this is 6'4" Barda as opposed to 7' Barda, just like with Grace. Grace was the only other woman that was ever measured at 7 foot in DC Comics, and she's a lot shorter here. So I'm assuming that she's probably about the same height as Barda, about somewhere about 6'3", 6'4" at this point. So now the Grace and the other person is like, they're about to get ready to have a sparring session with Barda. And they just don't know what they're about to get themselves into. So they're up here ready, they psych themselves up and everything. It's like, okay, fine. It's like, we're ready to take you down, take you to task and everything. So pretty much Grace starts in first, and they just, going in. It's like they get a couple of good blows and everything. And then they knock
what a great
Barda's helmet off.
Look at the whammo. I love it.
Yep. Whammo. It's like, they knocked Barda's helmet off, and her reaction was like, oh, you knocked my helmet off? Well, bet. Okay, time for me to kick it up a notch. And she started beating the brakes off of them. Now, mind you, this is sparring. This is not her in an actual fight. This is just her sparring.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So that's when Dinah was like, okay, fine, we'll be okay, because I don't think Bart is going to destroy any more equipment or anything to that magnitude and this, that, and the other. So Grace and the other person finally gets back up if they try to take down Barter again, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So everything switched back over to Cassandra. She goes back at 12, and they finally show her what exactly was going on. And lo and behold, they're the Thermoscarians. That this corporation had the Thermoscarians there. And this is where we get into the whole thing about the first part of everything as a whole here, as far as what the mission is. And that's how this particular issue ends. I almost forgot that the part that I really was disgusted at was in issue 15, which I also read, which I'm not going to talk about now because the first cylinder of how Barter reaction starts here. But in 15, it got to the point where it's like, yes, you wrote her personality very well, but that's not how she would react. With her being a leader of an elite force herself, she would, well, spoiler, non-spoiler. And the reason I'm saying spoiler, non-spoiler is because I'm not telling you what particularly happened, but in the same way, I'm telling you what her reaction would have been. Even here, as she was waiting, being that she was a leader of an elite force, her mentality is always to those that she calls sisters within her force. With Cassandra being one of those people in Birds of Prey that she holds to to a certain extent, her reaction to what's going on as far as the mission is concerned, about deadlines and stuff being missed, you're going to see certain things that happen with her and her mentality, but at the same time, she's doing it in a way to still respect Dinah. Now, does that mean that her and Dinah has words? I'm not going to tell you. But the overall reaction to it, the overall reaction that Barter has in the next issue was wrong. It was wrong in another way. But it is what it is. So, on that note, I would give issue number 14 of Birds of Prey a 6 out of 10. Because it's only the beginning of the story. There's a lot more to be had here. There's a lot more to be talked about here. So, for the beginning of a new story arc, it was okay. It didn't give you much to go on other than the fact that there was Thermoscarians missing, and now we see where they're at. The next step, we're going to find out here. And yes, the Whammo was awesome. And there you have it here.
I forgot to tell you, on Creature Commandos, one of the foes that Task Force M faces, it's not the main villain. The main villain is using these as basically fodder. The Sons of Themyscira. Have you ever heard of them? I don't know whether
I know of them. I haven't read much about them lately.
Well, the way they're in the show, they're a bunch of goobers, online goobers, who are like, when they read that men are not allowed to go onto Paradise Island, immediately they took offense and they wanted to go there. So they became a militant group destined to, secure the freedom for their fellow men to be welcomed and to have access to Themyscira. So, that's again, they're just being used as fodder for the real villain's intention. But that's what gets everybody all cranked up, is that they're doing these terrorist strikes. So
it's the only thing I can say, it's a plot point that had been done one other time.
Oh, okay.
And it never fared well because they always go back. We always go back to what Perez said about Themyscira, because technically Themyscira back in the Greek days,
Mm-hmm.
it was shared. It was just an actual island until the
Right.
gods got involved.
Mm.
I believe until Hera got involved,
Mhm.
because a deal was made. But it was more of like, a war between the gods actually happened, and Hera actually pretty much ended it. Ended
Right.
it for
Right.
a reason.
Hmm.
Touraism is bad. Oh boy, that is funny. Tourism.
But I forgot about that hook. It has a little bit of an Amazonian hook into it just because of that, and I keep forgetting to mention it because, like I said, they're not the major bad guys,
They're
but
not
they
the major
do.
big bad, but at
But
the
they
same
do.
time, for them to use the sons of Themyscira, it's like,
Yeah.
that's like, wait, it's like the first thing that came to my mind is like, these are not worshippers of Ares. It's like, I don't think so.
But the big bad is definitely a mystical being of some magical prowess.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, yeah, if you're gonna pick on somebody to be your cannon fodder, yeah, those would probably be a good choice.
Yeah,
Given,
some dumb people who are just like that really don't understand the lore of Themyscira and why the males were driven off the island.
yeah. So, well,
It's like, did you voice say that the feds was silenced on the Book of Faces due to rolling meta blackouts yesterday? No, I did
oh,
not. I
he
did not know
he
that
said he was having
BKM
trouble
did, had
posting.
had problems with Facebook. I did not know that. But then again, he doesn't really post much either as of late.
Well, I saw him on he did a talk show with Willow Schuyler the other day, and
Mhm.
he was a guest. And just keep everybody kind of keep Brian in your thoughts and prayers because he's. Um,
Rodman, that is.
oh, I'm talking about Brian Morris.
But what happened with him?
Well, I don't know that I hadn't heard anything. Like you said, he hasn't been as communicative as sometimes. I
Mhm.
hadn't heard too much about it, but mention was made that he's going to have a procedure done. Um, and it's not a high risk one or anything, but it's a medical procedure. And um, but he's going to, I think, here the first of the year he's going to be having that done. So he may be kind of holding back to get, like he said, he had to get some other things squared away first
Mhm.
before they could do this. So he's maybe kind of distracted right now with
Right.
real life stuff going on. But keep him in your thoughts and your prayers because he's just like me. He's not a young stud anymore. He's an older stud.
He's a stable stud. That's the way I
So
look at it. You're a
yeah,
stable stud. They can't be old, because the old ones, they're kind of like wither and be like almost to breaking point. But
and I mean, he seems to be. He said that I think in prepping for this, he's probably gotten the better shape that he's been
Mhm.
in a long time. So it could be an overall good thing. But I think we won't see him quite as much as we're used to seeing him for a little bit because of that. I'm guessing. I don't know, but from what their talk on the show was, this is probably the way it'll be through the holidays. So,
I kind of
um,
figured that much.
and yeah, now Brian Rodman has had some real breathing issues since he did a trip, I think, to Ohio with family. The first time he'd been able to do that in a long time for Thanksgiving, and he's paid for it ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really had asthma difficulties since then. So, but he did some work this week. He's been better, slow improvement and everything. So keep him in your thoughts and prayers too.
Yeah, we gotta keep them all the way healthy before we can have our reunion show.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that would be another reason to celebrate. Get them all up to, good health and have them on the show, that would be nice. So let me go through there's a light week for me. I didn't have a whole lot of books, but
Oh wow.
but I had kind of a handful of them. So my list this week of the best reads I've had. We had Defenders of the Earth #4, which is Defenders of the Earth from the cartoon series.
Mhm.
And they've carried this on pretty well. I have been impressed. I didn't follow every episode of the series, but I followed it enough to pick up on what the little storylines and stuff that they ran with. For example, the other Phantom, the other brother of the Phantom that wasn't chosen to be the Phantom and now wants to be a version of him. Kind of that whole Black Adam versus Shazam, different approaches to the same sort of same power set or the same mission, just one dark and one not quite so dark. So those little things that came from the Defenders of the Earth series, they continue on here. And we find out that Ming's influence is still being felt, and that part of it is manipulation and part of it is keeping Earth in the loop as far as the interplanetary affairs go. Certain things were allowed because they were expedient. Within 4 years after this big, Mongo tried to take over Earth, Earth is like back to higher standards of living and everything than they were before. Well, there's a cost that comes with that kind of recovery, and we start to see and hear what that cost is. So it's been that part of the storyline has been a slow evolution, but I like it. I think it makes sense.
But that they continue building up the children, because remember, it's like if I remember cartoon series correctly, they also mentioned their children. The children was there going on missions with them. And for some reason, I'm thinking about Mandrake's kid. Was almost on the verge of becoming the next Mandrake. That's the only reason why they were there.
You get a lot of Lothar, his son, at the beginning. Now in this issue, it's mainly Rick Flash's son, but we've had appearances by Lothar, and Kit Walker's daughter is also In fact, she's kind of allied with the brother, the other Phantom now.
Ooh,
I know, right? So that's not this issue. This issue is mainly a Rick and Flash issue, but we do get to see the Phantom and we get to see Mandrake a little bit. So, but I like where they're going. Dan Didio is the writer, and he has a respect for the series and for the characters, and he's presented these very archaic archetypes of characters into a modern setting very well, better than I would have expected them to fit. So all in all, a good read, and #4 continues to impress. So we got our weekly book of Batman Santa Claus Silent Night Returns, #3. And yeah, for holiday DC fun, this is good stuff. It's both funny and very dramatic. You get all out action scenes.
Mary Marvel.
Well, Satanic casts a very smart spell, and it's a very hard one for her to cast. She says she's only cast she's only managed to construct 3 of them since all this began, and she's spellcraft, she's pretty good, but she's had to work hard to get 3 of these ready and out there. And what she's done, after seeing how formidable the Silent Knight is, this Death Knight that sucks the life force out of people, she sends out these magical doves to find the 3 characters that will be most effective in combating him and who are not vulnerable to his magics. So you get a look there. Mary Marvel's one of them. And so is the Robot Man and Metamorpho. They are not
Metamorpho. That's
Metamorpho.
interesting.
I know. I love that combination, and also the whole deal about how she got the spell to work to find them,
Mhm.
to bring them together. It was just so nicely. The first issue was a little slow, but if you're just starting this, don't let that stop you, because it picks up beautifully in the second issue and flows right into the third. Um, Also, we get to meet Mrs. Claus. She's not exactly the stay-at-home grandma type that we've come to expect.
Well,
She's
that's almost like Miss Opeliac's wife.
yes.
She's not the type that you would expect for somebody like him. I kind of suspect the same thing for Mrs. Claus.
And one of the characters in the first issues, one of the characters that they go to for information and who gives them a bunch about the Silent Knight from Camelot, from his years as a knight of Camelot, Jason Blood. So he tells them about the DC's Silent Knight hero and how he fell from grace and became this thing now, this Death Knight. And so for all of their trouble, the Death Knight smacks him with a sword, which sucks his soul out. So Jason Blood dies, or is mostly dead. They put up like a barrier around him to try to preserve what little spark of life he has left. So
what does that mean for Etrigan then?
Etrigan is, if you can't say your rhyme, you're kind of, if you can't call him up, he's kind of not there until this issue. They have some other sorceress people that apply their trades, and they get, gone, O form of man, rise the demon
Etrigan.
So we get him back, and he's one of them too that is effective against the Death Knight. So they got 4 actually. I'm sorry, what, Joe?
I'm just thinking. To me, it's like it's not just the fact that it's the incantation; it's the bond.
Yes,
Jason Blood is bonded in such a way where Etrigan would appear. You just can't cast a spell or say the rhyme to get Etrigan. Right. There has to be some type of bond.
In this case, the portal through which Etrigan can appear through Jason was snuffed out, where he couldn't access it because of Jason's status as mostly dead. Right. But it's been reversed now. So, and they said, "Oh, is Jason Blood okay then?" And even the spellcaster was like, "Not sure yet." Etrigan is here, and he'll help us with fighting this Death Knight. So, Space Ghost number 8. I don't have a physical copy of it. I get review copies now. But Space Ghost number 8, I've enjoyed. Actually, we were talking about doing our best of run. That's one of them that I haven't seen on a lot of lists, but a few critics. The series of Space Ghost written by David Propose over at Dynamite, and it's going to be one of mine because it's been nothing but true to the cartoon, yet expanding in ways that you always wanted to see him done as a regular superhero ongoing title. It's just every issue has been a little bit better than the one before to me.
I still want Birdman. I still want a good Birdman comic.
I would like to see Propose get a chance to write that, because that's got a lot of. Birdman always had so much more potential to me than straight up Hawkman did. So yeah, I would love to see somebody with his caliber of writing get a chance to tackle it. But Space Ghost number 8, we get kind of some flashbacks that fill in gaps about how a guy that's a father and a husband on a high technology planet, a guy named Dax, ends up becoming basically, I mean, I like the way that in the first appearance, the mask of Space Ghost looks like an executioner's hood, because he's definitely a Punisher kind of character. And we get to see how that all began. It's partially an origin of how this version of Space Ghost became Space Ghost. It doesn't go into it real deep. It's paralleled with what's going on in the current storyline. So we get it goes back and forth a little bit, and it's not overboard. It's not like, the whole thing. It's just little from one scene to another. You get little bits. I think they're probably going to do this, and it's one of the few that's not standalone. It's continued next issue, so I think we're going to get that over 2 or 3 issues, maybe, to show how he became Space Ghost. What'd you say, Joe?
No, I said okay. I dig it. I dig that.
I dig it. Okay, so I did break loose of $7.99 and took the plunge on Shiver Suspense Stories.
Ooh,
which is
EC.
It's EC. It's a one shot.
Okay.
And it's all about, as you can tell from the cover, it's all about the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So I resisted the urge till this one, and I'm like, okay, based on their opening salvo of combination stories, Tales from the Crypt kind of stories, I thought, this would be a good take a chance on this one. It would be a good bet. But then the last couple of issues, the first issues of their EC Tales from the Crypt kind of book were really good. The last two have been fair. Not good thematically, but not as well written. So then I was looking at this going, oh, yeah, I forgot. I dropped the $7.99 for that. Hopefully that wasn't a mistake. But now this is an oversized issue. So $7.99, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories and then a wraparound to tie them all together. And this was really good. This reminded me of the first issues again. Every one of these was, gave you the shivers for the season. And we got Jason Aaron was one of the writers, Hunter Goranson, Jay Stevens, wonderfully illustrated. There's some really heart-rending stories and others of comeuppance that you're going, yeah. The Last Ornament is a very touching story about an old antique ornament and the owner who got this ornament as a child and treasured it, but is now an older lady who's on her last days. They also reprint a Vault of Horror story from the past. So that's kind of a nice little added Christmas bonus for all of it. But yeah, it was a good solid, I think of all the ones now. One of the guys at the comic shop said that the Creep Show issue for Christmas was really, really good. I may have to go back and try that one, but this one was everything I expected and more. It was really quite a fine holiday. And, we've got even the titles. We got The Last Ornament. We got Ghost in the Machine, Checking It Twice, Red as Any Blood, and The Curse. They did one of the favorite ones in here is a take on the curse of the instead of the gift of the Magi. You have a very similar story, but Henry I think would be proud because it's the curse of the Magi instead. So if you're looking for a holiday book to get and you don't mind dropping $7.99, because that's more than I usually pay for a single read, even an extended big one like this is worthwhile. But the review will be for a new chapter in the world of Minor Threats. That is coming along nicely as a universe that I thought landed squarely between. It's not as ribald and as dark as The Boys, but there are hints of Astro City in it, or even Black Hammer. But Lemire, he's much more pointed when he does an analog character. These you have to kind of work through who they are, and a lot of them don't really have analogs. Some of them are stories like you may have seen before, but not all the characters are obvious riffs on an established one. So The Brood is about a supervillain trying to decide which of his progeny will follow in his footsteps and inherit his criminal empire that he's built. And this is the guy on the cover here. As you can see, he's no spring chicken. The characters there in the background are his progeny, we believe. There's one of them that we're not certain about, but so I'll show you some of the artwork here. We've got him falling to his supposed death and multitasking as he goes down because he's already got a way figured out how to stop from dying. But he's also got a roster to fill out for his a supervillain team that he sponsors. So he's working through, as he's falling, still free falling, he's working through who he's going to select and vote for inclusion into the group. How he's going to take care of a troubling spot of resistance in a little jungle island where he has holdings. But he's doing all this as he's falling, multitasking as he goes. We get a glimpse back into his past when he was an up-and-coming wannabe supervillain, and his ongoing 40-some-year fights, almost 5-decade fights with the superheroine known as the Searcher. Think like Supergirl, and that's been his main adversary. Is she's superpowered, has all the powers. He has none. He's just a very smart guy. So kind of a Lex Luthor, Supergirl vibe between the two of them. She doesn't age. Unfortunately, he does, and thus is why he's thinking about who should inherit his criminal empire. Family gatherings are kind of like criminal board meetings. So here they all are around the table with, Dad is definitely the chairman of the board here, and he's not going to take any guff from anybody. It's also his birthday, so he's got them all together. They can't turn him down because they're coming to his party. So here he is celebrating with his family. And we get a look at some of them as they were younger, get some family dynamics going. Now, we also break it down and we see the homes of his family, different members of his family. And in the end, he goes to somebody he doesn't trust for an opinion on a diagnosis. And here we get kind of a cool, like, living CAT scan looking over his, he's 66 years old when this begins, and he feels like there's something wrong. So he goes to somebody, oddly enough, it's somebody he doesn't exactly trust, to give him a second opinion. So getting into the review itself, from the World of Minor Threats, The Brood #1 is published by Dark Horse Comics. The cover price is $4.99. It's written by Heath Corson, along with some plotting by Patton Oswalt and Jason Blum. They always say this, if it's written by one person, as they say that's a primary plotter, but I don't know if it's because the foundation of this series was made by Oswalt and Blum, or if there's really has to be approved by them, or they embellish on what's been written. Don't know for sure, but we'll credit them all with plotting. But the main scripter is Heath Corson. The illustrations are by L.N.J. Culberd, letters by Nate Picos of Blambot, and it's rated Teen Plus. So the World of Minor Threats is coming along, I think, quite well. Some of the early issues were a little bit rough, but the last few, if you remember, I did reviews on Barfly. That was just fun. That was all kinds of fun, and that was definitely the main plotter. This was his kind of story. That's the guy who was a human. He was an evolved humanoid fly made by a insectoid type villain, an insect manipulating DNA villain. And yeah, it was, perfect for a series like Minor Threats. Again, to me, this whole universe, as it's been foundationally built by Oswalt and Blum and these other writers now, it's definitely an Astro City or Black Hammer and The Boys. It's somewhere in the middle of that. it skirts close to being as poignant as Astro City at times, or Black Hammer. Um, it resists the all-in darkness though of the boys. It's not that adult, and it's got just enough humor in most of it to balance between the two of them very well. So in The Brood, we meet Napoleon Archimedes. His real name is Stanley Tyler, and he's an aging master criminal and arch nemesis of the superhero called the Searcher. So their battles have extended, they say, 46 years, so almost 5 decades. And while Searcher seems unaffected by the years, thanks to her godlike abilities, Napoleon's mortal coil is showing. So this begins where he considers which of his offspring should carry on his legacy of humbling those high and mighty masks, because that's what he's based his whole career on. Superheroes are looked at as the moral high ground and, beloved champions. And he's like, they have clay feet just like anybody else, and I'll show you. I'm just a guy, but I can outfight and outthink them. The choices that he's got to make, the cast to choose from for his progeny. There's Athena Archimedes, an expert at bioengineering and definitely following in the super science footsteps of her father. Benjamin Park, who is a tactical genius in combat and probably with small unit operations, although we haven't seen that yet. And Spook Show. That's the son who's plotted his own course by becoming a mystic arts master in lieu of science at all. So his choice is made more difficult when others begin putting forth their picks. Your wife is always going to have her suggestion, and your friends in crime are going to have their suggestions about who should occupy the position, who should ascend. And then, of course, they plead their case for their candidates. And the process is then further intensified by a grim prognosis for our main character, one echoing a hero-villain cause and effect trope that we've read more than once before, but not always with the background elements building on the situation the way they are here. So Heath Corson on the script reveals Napoleon's brood initially as less vipers and more uncertain or rebellious successors. To a degree, each is an embodiment of the primary traits that their sire has. Athena has his technical and scientific acumen. Benjamin inherited his father's gift for planning and practical implementation of tactical concepts. Spook Show mirrors the rebel spirit within Napoleon, while his father has dedicated himself to placing the clay feet of the moralizing superheroes on display for the world to see. Spook Show has turned his back on the foundational science of Napoleon's approach, and instead he has embraced magic as his weapon to achieve similar results. So Corson's main cast, they could be analogs for existing characters, although with a lighter touch, like I said, than when Jeff Lemire does it for Black Hammer. Namely, the Brood villain and his offspring. After I read the book a couple of times, I first came across, it's like Lex Luthor if he had kids. And, Supergirl, if that was his main antagonist, his main enemy. But after I read it the second time, I think that the Brood, with the Napoleon and his offspring, it's a mature audience version of Dr. Thaddeus Bodog Savannah, if Mary Marvel was his primary opponent. And that could be a track for future issues, seeing that the trio of heirs in their early careers, maybe when they were younger, they were like, the Savannah family, they were always trying to, help their dad and prove that each one of them was the best. And we don't get that vibe out of this issue so far, but it could increase as, it's apparent that somebody's going to get chosen and maybe nobody wants to be left behind. Or it may not. I'm not really sure yet. But if there's an analog, I think that might be at least marginally what they were going.
Another one on the table?
Yeah.
Why not Brother Blood and the Hive?
Possible. It is possible. I think because I think because Napoleon, now he's got like this weird helmet that he wears. It looks kind of like Mysterio's helmet. But underneath, and when we see him at home and all, he's an old guy with big, thick glasses that are kind of like Tony Stark's. He's got like things that they can do. But he looks like a Savannah with hair to me. More than looks like the other characters. I think that's part of it. And then because each of the kids, you know, he had 3 kids, also 3 kids. So, but yeah, it could be maybe it could be an amalgam of the two. Even I don't know. Adding to the Savannah Spice is the artwork by L.N.J. Colbert. And it doesn't have the Fawcett whimsy. It's not like whimsical or, you know, fantastical in that way. But it balances with its simplicity of line and style, the storytelling here. Specifically, it's very straightforward. It has colorful glimpses into Napoleon's past. And then he gets more lined and detailed when we see his later stages in life. And he sets the present part of the storyline with the Spartan background of his headquarters. We see somebody who's become a very orderly in his thinking and way of doing things, very Spartan, very straightforward, and the artwork shows that very well. Now, when we see the kids, you know, it's less faux idyllic. We see that there's chaos. And when he's talking about the jungle, the troubles in the jungle, perhaps brewing because of some of his holdings there, you know, extreme chaos with the jungle setting and that other nemesis that may be rising there. So the varying degrees of disorder are presented and kind of made impactful by him changing his style as he goes along between those two extremes. So together, the creative team, including excellent Nate Picos of Blambot, I have sung his praises for years, and I haven't seen him a lot lately, so I was glad to catch up and see that he's still getting work here. I know Blambot, and now that's a service that a lot of creators can take advantage of with lettering styles, and I have read I don't know how many. You know, you can get like large packages or just one piece, one font. But people sing his praises a lot because of that. They use his work from Blambot quite a bit. So he's in this. The lettering is great also. Altogether, though, they provide a textured and multi-layered introduction to a premier supervillain in the final act of his career. They dive into what lurks behind those high-tech specs, the analytical as well as the less logical elements. And in the end, Napoleon or Stan is only human. And that is part of the exploration of this book. For some readers, it may seem overly grounded. I think that's because we'd be used to see, because I caught myself feeling like this. We're used to seeing Dr. Doom and others like him rail against all manner of fates, including their mortality or their death. Luthor facing fatal radiation poisoning because he wore a kryptonite ring, used his fortune in science to create other options for himself. But in the first issue, we don't get very much of that at all from our protagonist, at least not yet. Will the adult children of a major supervillain bear fangs as viperish, ambitious heirs to the brood over the next 3 issues? Or is Napoleon Archimedes going to conduct a house cleaning and ensuring his legacy with a whole different route? Or will Searcher and other opponents, learning of his perhaps pending demise, make the entire matter moot as all the poisons lurking in the muds hatch out? So from the world of minor threats, the brood #1, it asks these kind of questions and sets in motion the possibilities adroitly. And better yet, for this kind of a book, it's a launch that invests us in finding out the answers. You really want to know. It's not just posing questions that you go, I don't care whether we find out or not. Really, it gets you wondering and wanting to know where his mind is going to travel as far as the possibilities for his legacy. That's why this impressive supervillain King Lear story of a premiere gets my rating of 8 archenemy monologues out of 10.
Oh, so he's not at like Monarch level monologues, but yet he's better than, let's just say, like the High Evolutionary.
Yeah, well, he does. Like I said, he is the chairman of the board when he's doing that meeting. You know, one of the kids continues to kind of disrespect him, and you know, yeah, he rues that. And it seems his whole thing about choosing a successor seems sort of rhetorical. But I'm curious to see how the whole situation will evolve as his kids learn that it's not rhetorical necessarily. This is an actual, this is coming down to who's going to inherit everything.
Mhm.
So
I still got to finish reading the main series of Minor Threats. To be quite honest, I started it, but I never finished it.
it's a little
I enjoy
rough.
it. I enjoy it for what I read, but it's
Yeah.
just I don't know. It's just like one of those ones that I just don't have like that energy to be like, oh, I got to stop everything to get the rest of it type deal.
And I wish I could say that every one of their miniseries titles building on it have been wonderful. I can't. They're not. So some of them are better than others. Barfly was, man, that was good stuff. But that's because it's the kind of character and story that writer's good at. Some of the others, I'm not real sure yet. Although I don't know Heath. I don't know him professionally. I'm not sure all that he has done, but this was very masterfully handled as far as, there's no heavy-handed flashbacks to show you all this, fill in all the blank. This is very, very organic in the way it presents this supervillain and all of his offspring, um, without giving you anything more than you absolutely need to start forming an opinion about the kind of person that you're dealing with. And all same thing for his kids. And in one issue, a regular size issue, that's a pretty good accomplishment for your first act.
So if it receiving that type of praise from you, it's worth checking out. That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, I think so. Now, it's the first issue. We have 3 more left. Could it disappoint? Sure. It may not go well from here, but it sure launched well.
Trust me, nothing could disappoint like whatchamacallit, Danger Street.
Oh, yeah.
Issue 9, book 9, it fell all apart. I just don't.
I know. Well, and see now, Helen of Windhorn is a book that King is doing now. It's an independent, and it's a whole new character and set of characters. The first few issues were really good. It's made a lot of lists for the best of 2024. But and I shouldn't be this way, I guess, because it's a good book. I don't think that it's unwarranted for it to be on the best of list. But because he's so off again, and because he gets into a series and he's doing it well, and then he just basically screws the pooch, I can't recommend it as the best of the year because I don't have faith in Tom King to keep up the quality that he started with. So I don't know.
After what he did with Wonder Woman, because just between you and me, what he did with issue 8 of Wonder Woman makes my worst of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, to browbeat and Bible thump, to me is not a good look of a writer of that caliber. Especially if the story does not really need it. The story didn't need it. But to prove the point of where he was going with it is more like it's my story. I'm going to take it the way that I want to take. I want to take you where I want to take you. And it's like you really didn't need to do all of this. You actually made you made some people who are diehard fans of yours like it, but new people and diehard readers of Wonder Woman hated it. Because this is outside of the normal character of both the villain and her to go through something like this.
But that's kind of one of his trademarks is whatever story I'm going to tell, I will choose the characters I'm going to use to tell it, whether they would fit the story or not. And, sometimes that works, but when it doesn't, it really is a bad taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, bad taste. I mean, I got to admit, um, except for Helen of Windhorn, I don't think I have bought any other King books since Danger Street. I did get the first Wonder Woman issue. I did get that. And
Well,
was
I'm what
hmm?
13 or 14 issues in
Mm.
to Wonder Woman now. I'm hanging
So
in there, and people are asking me questions about what does that symbolize. I was like, I have to try to catch up where I could answer the questions that they've been asking me, especially with this Tom King run, because
Mhm.
I see where he's trying to go with it, but it doesn't fit lore, and that's what
Mhm.
bothers me more so than anything.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, with Trinity being invented and not really being brought to the forefront,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard pressed because it's like she's being treated like an afterthought.
Yeah.
Because Trinity technically was supposed to have been the catalyst of telling this story of Diana up
Mm-hmm.
under this age here. And to be quite honest here, I think I'm going to be enjoying Absolute Wonder Woman more so than this regular series.
Mm-hmm. Now on the Comics Beat best of list, they had several I have not read. So, but the only absolute title that made it was Absolute Batman, which I would
I question that.
I would question that. I think that both Superman and Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman have overall better storytelling so far. But
I think that's more of a fanboyish reaction more so than anything.
mm,
Mainly because the way, and like I said, I only read snippets of Absolute Batman, but it still comes off to me as what if Bruce was Peter Parker in this universe?
mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, fine, he's not a billionaire, but he's still doing the type of things on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's Peter Parker. You just made him Peter Parker doing the exact
really,
same thing.
really buff. You can't hide that physicality in a costume, Peter Parker.
Exactly. So I just don't know what to make of it as of yet.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I think it's interesting. And then if you can do something interesting with Batman, more power to you. You know, there's been so much bad, uninteresting stuff written. They have they have gone to that well so many times. You're going to get some things that are like, ew. So I'm for them trying to do something different. I just of the three books, it's the one that I have. If I had to like drop one, it would be Batman right now. The other two intrigue me a lot more. So
Put it this way, Superman almost got me to the point where I'm actually thinking about picking it up, but it's still, I'm not a big Superman fan. I'm not a big
right.
Batman fan. So
Right,
if it's getting me to the point where I might want to pick it up, it's speaking volumes. Batman, the only thing that I could say is if you're ever going to start reinvent Batman, I would say always start with Thomas. Give me more Thomas Wayne.
Right, right.
And to me, it's like that whole dynamic of what happened in Flashpoint Beyond, where Thomas knows about Bruce in this universe. That to me spoke a lot of volumes because he finally actually got to talk to him father to son in that letter.
Yeah.
I don't know what was completely in the contents of the letter because they never explained it by the end of issue 6. But it made Bruce feel a lot better about the choices that he made in his life. And it also gave me more respect for Thomas Wayne as far as all this messed up stuff that he had to do in his Gotham City.
Right, right. Oh, we should remind people too.
Yes.
We were talking about pop culture stuff and streaming services. The holidays coming up. On the 22nd of December, Disney Plus will drop their first What If Season 3 episode. And then every day you'll have a different one. I think none on Christmas, but then all the way up, for the next 8 days.
Somewhere, something like to the new year, to
Yeah.
January 1.
Yeah. So that will be beginning here, and that's the last season of What If. So hopefully it'll be some good episodes. We'll see.
Yep. Oh, and what? January 26th, the Multiverse fundraiser.
Yes, glad you mentioned that. January 26th, we will have our online convention called the Multiverse Fundraiser. We raise money for comic books for kids. Comic Book Spectrum will have an hour block, 4 p.m. Central Time on Sunday of that weekend, where we're going to talk about books that we feel like, trades or runs that we feel like deserve a place on the shelf of graphic novels that you should read, along, they could sit beside things like Watchmen, things like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and things that are probably newer than that, but deserve a shot on that shelf and should be considered for trend-setting and important ones. Huh?
Mine's is not newer than that.
Is it not newer than that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's right. Yours is back from that era. Yours would fit very nicely into that era, in fact.
Mhm.
So yeah. But okay, well, mine is new. I wanted a newer one. I wanted something that I could recommend as this was really good and it deserves a spot on that shelf. So mine's a newer one.
It does fit. You hit the nail on the head. It's like things that would fit in with Watchmen. And another one that came to my mind was V for Vendetta.
Mm-hmm. Or
things
Mouse.
Like that. Mouse, yeah.
Things that are, and we said that they could be like personal. Kingdom Come. It could be a personal kind of a thing. Maybe it meant a lot to, it's not necessarily that it is, Time Magazine may not make it one of the 100 books you should read before you die, but, for whatever reasons, we think that it deserves a mention and to be put into that category.
And now since you made me think about it, I still got to read Hunger Dogs. I had to finish reading Hunger Dogs. Like I had to stop because it dealt with a lot of stuff with New Gods, New Genesis, and Apocalypse that I wasn't aware of from all my other reading of the genre.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had to start and stop because I was like, oh, I did not know that Apocalypse had this. When did this happen? And I started to do some research, then I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So now you reminded me, it's like, oh yes, if we are talking about graphic novels, that could be an honorable mention for me because much as people like Randy Zimmerman and Glenn B. Fleming was always talking about, if you ever read a Jack Kirby graphic novel, that's the one to read.
Mm-hmm.
So now, since I own a copy of it, I could go ahead and read it. I thought about a physical copy of it. I have finally got a physical copy of it. So I started reading it and I stopped. Just like I still have to finish reading all my Modesty Blaze stuff that I bought from Randy Zimmerman.
Hey, speaking of the best of stuff, when we do this look at the best of 2024, dare we also pick one thing, whatever our choice of the worst of 2024? Or
yes, I thought it was best and worst, not just best.
Well, when we were talking about it, I gave 3 categories that were all good stuff. I didn't put down the worst, but I got thinking of that. Yeah, we should do. I think I can come up with one. I probably.
Well, I gave one of the ones that I consider worst. And the only reason I say it's worse because of the writing. The writing made me cringe so hard that it's like, this is not a Wonder Woman book. This is something else.
You haven't even fully uncringed from it, have you? You cringed and you're still
it's just the way that he's writing the story, but that just took the cake. Everything else, like okay, fine. And it's not the fact that Tom King is writing it. And I always said this here, and I still stick by it. I appreciate what he's doing because he's bringing more people to the Wonder Woman title reading it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's almost like I can't relate to you as a fan of his Wonder Woman because I want to show you stories that contradicts what he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
and have a sneaky suspicion that you won't like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got to ask you, as a person of your generation, if you remember, I love obscure characters. Do you ever remember a brother and sister superhero team called the Dynamite Duo?
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, why? We're doing which we were talking about the multiverse fundraiser. Every year I'm on the B-list boosters panel, and we come up with characters that deserve their own series or mini series, or somebody that we think has never been presented with their full potential that they possess. Somebody we'd like to see more of that never got a fair shake. And I stumbled across these two, and it was one of those things that there's not a lot of information. I had to really scrounge for it. But every time it's mentioned, every time that these two characters are mentioned, there's a plethora of people, I would say your generation more than mine, but kind of like straddling both, that are like, oh my gosh, I forgot about them. That would be so cool. How come they're not reprinting those stories? I read them for years, and they have fallen by the wayside. That only when somebody brings it up does everybody go, I know them. Otherwise,
it's like it just a light bulb just goes off. It's like, I haven't heard that name in years. It's like, but why can't I remember? It's like I know the name. I could almost picture them, but it's not fully coming back. It's almost like it's an afterthought to us.
Do you want a hint?
Yes.
2 magic rings that come together.
That's right. and there were several cartoon series that mimic them.
Well, actually, I think Shazam in the 60s
did it.
It was definitely, it was before this. So they kind of set the tone. The Wonder Twins, it was before this.
Right.
This would have been in the like 1974, 75, 76, I think 76 era of time when they premiered. And that would be after those others. So, but think about it.
That's the reason why I was like, now it's like, once you mentioned the ring, it's like, yeah, because all these other cartoons mimicked it because it was so popular.
They didn't. They mimicked the other cartoons. Now maybe
they mimicked Shazam. I remember that. Yeah. Shazam had it first.
Yeah,
but Shazam they didn't have power. They were just summoning Shazam.
Right. And the Wonder Twins did it by touching fist bumps. They invented the fist bump to activate their powers. So kind of in that same vein, but these are actually rings that they got, and they could summon their superpowered alternates, a la the Shazam family, by touching rings. So,
and for some reason, I vaguely remember that this was a direct result of a aftershoot of Dial H for Hero. This was a direct competition with that.
I don't know. It was not. Here's the thing, too. It was not in a regular comic book.
That's the problem.
It was in a different. It was not a DC character. It was not a Marvel character. It's something else. So think on it, and if you want to know beforehand, I will send you a directed message and let you know. But that's. I got to thinking. I had one character picked out already, but I got to thinking last year we ran short on time, and they needed an extra character thrown in, so I had one prepped. So I'm going to prep 2, and that way, if we need it, I'll have it.
Well, the one thing that if you ever need me for one, and I don't know if this group would fit, the Holiday Girls.
The Holiday Girls. I should know that, but I don't. I'm drawing a blank.
You drawing a blank? I
am.
The college co-eds from Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. Yes. As you said that, I'm thinking the shirts with the H's were coming to mind. Yeah, I'm like, and the Etta Candy kind of artwork and the way they looked on. Yeah, I got it. Yep.
and
I
they just
hadn't thought
fell
about
to
it
the
a lot.
wayside. They never came back, and every so often you might get to see one or two on when they bring them back in retrospect and later Wonder Woman issues, but them as a group
Right.
should have had their own book
Mhm.
because of their interactions with Diana, because we don't know what truly happened to them after that era of Wonder Woman.
They could have been like her Newsboy Legion. Yep. Yep.
I mean, Etta was around a lot longer. At least Etta got more mentions after
Oh yeah.
that era, but
Mhm.
the whole group of the Holiday Girls were
Mhm.
just, they disappeared.
Mhm.
And they were just a legion of women crime fighters.
Mhm.
That's all that they were. They were just,
Mhm.
if anything, they was like the backup for Wonder Woman. It's like they didn't really have any powers, but they were of such number that they were almost like a backup core that could come
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
and mess something up for you.
Her Baker Street Irregulars.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joe, are you
Yep.
ready to pull the plug on 2024?
Yep. 2024 is going to be done here. We it looks like we got Aaron, the psychotronic squirt gun. He showed up and caught the tail end of it. Now, Aaron also has a show that rivals us on Thursdays where he shows all of these awesome comic book covers and talks about them. And he has a Monday night claim show where you could buy awesome comics from him on Monday. So if you haven't subscribed to him, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit him up for some great comic books and some great comic book discussions here.
Mhm.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now that's a name that I have not heard of in a long time. She's messing with us. So yes, let's put the kibosh on this one here. So I'm going to let you have the floor, and we got to do our normal thing.
All right, we'll do our Abby normal thing.
Wrong one, wrong one.
Okay, well that's what you've done that before. That's kind of our Abby normal thing.
Yeah.
So I'm Clyde Hall, an elder statesman of geekery. Here on behalf of Comic Book Spectrum, I'm wishing all of you and yours a Merry Christmas, a blessed and safe holiday season, and a great start to your new year. I want you to know, as our viewers, we appreciate you, and we thank you for the support that you've given us over these last few years of Comic Book Spectrum. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm under Clyde Hall or Radiating Positive Vibes with author Clyde Hall. I make a daily post under both of those that's designed to improve your day and maybe give you a smile or an ooh, perhaps an ah, sometimes a chuckle, and maybe even, dare we say it, dare, a guffaw. We do things like nostalgic looks back at TV shows and pop culture. We do looks at unusual forms of art. I did one not too long ago on artwork done on dirty car windows. Now that sounds goofy as a medium, but there were some beautiful. There's like the Last Supper that is wonderful, and it's sort of like sand art on the beach. It's not going to stay there very long. So that's the kind of thing that we do. We also do. We look at the careers of. Speaking of cover artists, we look at some cover art of different comics. Some of the careers of artists from the industry there. Look back at like right now we're doing a whole bunch of stuff on Christmas nostalgic sort of postings, the best toys of the past, and things like that. So tune in. Also, I'm on Twitter at CJ Hall 1984, or you can find me on Blue Sky at captainaction.bsky.social, or just check out my Amazon authors page right down here. I'm currently part of the online comic book review crew at comicsbeat.com, aka The Beat. That's at www.comicsbeat.com. And I'm part of the Comic Book Spectrum podcast every Thursday night right here at 7 p.m. Central on YouTube. In my spare time, I'm an independent award-winning author and a contributing writer at Stormgate Press. Just announced for release in 2025 is Pulp Reality number 5. It's a new pulp tribute to the masked mystery vigilante tradition. I have an original character in it called the Mannequin. He's crime's worst nightmare, a good man who went to war, found the same evils he fought overseas waiting for him on his return to the home front. You can find more of my work in Stormgate anthologies, things like The Lost Adventures of Captain Hawkland, Volume 1 and 2, if you like aviation, new pulp type stories. Also in things like Spurs and Six Shooters, Tales of the Old West, if you like pulp that delves into the American frontier. Also, Tim Bruckner's Major Marjorie, if the new pulp you like is traditional, old-fashioned science fiction stories. And you can go to www.stormgatepress.com to experience the best in new pulp entertainment. Comic Book Spectrum is brought to you by one of the bullpen members over at Stormgate Press, and that's artist extraordinaire Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. He is a Pulp Factory award-winning artist several years running. If you like the look of the Major Marjorie cover, he won an award for that. Brian K. Morris is The Terrors. He won a Pulp Factory award for this one too. So this is both of these are Brian or Jeffrey's work, and he's just awesome. Jeffrey Hayes, Plasma Fire Graphics, is the guy that you want working on illustrations for your books, your games, or any other graphic enhanced work, because he brings people to your table when you're at a show. He did this, as you can tell, I really love this illustration that he did, this painting that he did for me of a story of, in the first edition of The Lost Adventures of Captain Hawkland. And, he is easy to work with. He's affordable. And to get Plasma Fire Graphics working for you on your next project, reach out and contact Jeffrey Hayes. You'll be glad that you did. It will make a big difference in your final bottom line of what your work brings in monetarily for you. So let Joe now tell you how to reach out and get Plasma Fire Graphics working for you.
You seen the books that Clyde showed you? Now we got a video that goes along with it to convince you once again to check out Jeffrey Hayes.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Heard the endorsement, now you've seen the video. So give Jeffrey Hayes a quick little message by either going out to his website at plasmafiregraphics.com or his Facebook group, Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as me, I wish I could just say just the simple words what Clyde said, but no. As producer of the show here, officially now, I'm the producer of the show here, I must do the following here, which is I thank you so much for watching us over this past year. I know there was a lot of transition going from from Brian K. Morris to myself leading the show here. I'm trying to do my best to elevate the show here, to make it a little bit more professional as we go along here, to have the intros and everything getting a little bit better, doing all the graphic work and everything to that magnitude, having, Clyde still does the thumbnails and everything for us. And we're just trying to keep things swimming along and keeping up the highest quality of entertainment for you guys here, and to keep up our reviews to the highest quality here, with having, little to no bias to it here. I know we're going to be fans of what we like and everything, but when we do our reviews, we try to keep it on an even keel where we try to remove the majority of our own bias, so people who are not fans of it can also enjoy what we would love and dislike about some of the books that we have read here. So in the year of 2024, I thank you so much for watching us here. And I guarantee you in 2025, we're going to bring you more good quality programming right here. We're going to have our reunion special here somewhat shortly because we want the gang back together again. You know, I want the original 4 back. You know, for those who have been here from day one, you know that the original 4 was Brian K. Morris, Clyde Hall, Eric Hawkins, and Brian Rodman. Those were the original 4. I was a backup. That was me. I was the backup. And now with projects being the way that they are, life being the way that it is here, I'm happy that the reins was passed down to me from Brian K. Morris. And I'm going to try to get people together and make this show what it is. A nice, positive, healthy show where we could talk about comics and geekdom with, you know, putting our spin to it. Not being argumentative, not being negative, but being positive. Talking about the good things and the not so good things from time to time. But the main thing here is we want to turn you on to this stuff and not turn you off. And that's the key thing here. So for the last time in 2024, I bid you guys adieu here. We will see you back here on January 9th, which is the second week of January here. So have a great Christmas holiday. Have a safe and sane New Year's Day or happy or New Year's. And we will see you on January 9th right here on Comic Book Spectrum. Until then, live life, grow, and be well. And unlike Brian K. Morris, I don't care if you wash your hands, and I do mean this with my whole heart here. Never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. We'll catch you right back here January 9th, and have a good rest of the year. See you later. Sign off for 2024.